Hello and welcome to the Excurse, which is a name I came up with yesterday while I was trying to think of a name for this podcast.
You're making your excurses early.
Yes, indeed. Yes, the first episode of this kind of conversational interview style podcast with different people, as and when you know,
when you feel like it.
When we feel like it. Yeah. And today, weirdly, you're in the same room as me, which
I am.
Is
yeah.
odd. Yeah,
yeah. We it's like the before times in here when we were allowed to be together in enclosed spaces. Yeah.
Yeah. So, podcast host, writer.
Yeah, general unemployed chancer. Yeah.
Luke Haines, how are you, sir?
I'm well. Yeah, I'm good. Well, again, I'm unemployed, and I'm giving creativity a try for a month before I have to go back to probably getting a job at an Amazon warehouse somewhere, which will be fun in and of itself. But yeah, overall, I'm well.
Yeah. So I guess first of all, I know you as Doug, and I don't know why.
There were like 3 Lukes in my year at school, so Douglas is my middle name, so it was just easier to...
Okay, because I know you from school, and I was always confused as to why everyone called you Doug, and I don't think I ever asked you, so...
No, it was just a convenience thing. Weirdly, I ended up working in a bar years later, where somebody thought I looked a bit like Ardal O'Hanlon, which I can kind of see. So they started calling me Dougal. So it's like some sort of Doug-based name is just following me through life. I don't know. And then if I ever achieve any degree of success, there is a musician and writer called Luke Haines, same spelling. He was in the Durs, if anybody was a fan of 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not him. That's why I think currently on Twitter I'm Luke Haines. No, not that one. Which is just, people are infinitely disappointed when they meet me.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons, not just the name thing.
So your podcast is called The Arts Hole, which is a tremendous name, by the way, and a tremendous logo.
Thank you. That took me all of 10 minutes on Microsoft Paint.
It was 10 minutes well spent.
It was. I think we sort of painted ourselves into a corner with that one because we thought it was a funny name, and then I said, well, we're just talking about movies. We need to start doing TV and books to justify the arts in Arts Hole. So I'm going to have to branch out to justify a bum joke, which is these things creep up on you. So
you do the Arts Hole with B and your podcast dog. Disco.
Yes, Disco. Disco is often
silent member.
Oh, we edit a lot of that out when she starts barking because somebody came near the window, or if she's attacking a cushion. But yeah, we could start leaving that in, I guess. But it doesn't contribute much, I feel.
No. So far, like you said, you've mostly focused on films, which one of my podcasts is all about films.
Yeah.
And I noticed you did an episode recently on The Wicker Man.
Yes, we did. We started doing a thing. We're going to call it Masters and Disasters. We're going to try and pick something that's great and something that is tied to it, which is awful. So in that case, we did the original Wicker Man, the true Wicker Man, and then the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man.
Yeah, I mean that's an obvious connection there.
Yeah, that was a very easy one to do.
Yeah, the Wicker Man is I think we said before this podcast, one of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah.
And the Nicolas Cage version is, not only is it bad, it's really boring.
Yeah, this is the thing we touched on, wasn't it? Because like I always fall into this trap. I have this disease where I watch a bad film going, oh, this will be funny. And then it's not funny. It's just tedious.
More often than not,
yeah,
it's really tedious. Because the thing is, I don't think it would be bad if it was entertaining.
Yeah.
You can
get away with a lot if I'm having fun. And you
Absolutely.
never are watching these films, you know?
I always think that about plot in films as well, because I was saying to you earlier that for me, plot is the most important thing in a movie.
Yeah.
But I will watch a movie full of plot holes, and if I've always judged it, like my barometer is like, if I don't notice the plot hole, then the movie's entertaining me sufficiently to get me past it.
I think probably the poster child for this was like Avengers Endgame, right? Which was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun watching Endgame, but it doesn't make any goddamn sense from any direction as soon as
I have this like theory. I'm interested what you think of this. I have this like philosophy on time travel in movies.
Yeah.
And that is that if you're introducing time travel into an existing narrative which didn't have time travel previously, or it wasn't centered around time travel, then you fucked up. You've written yourself into a hole and you have problems.
Yeah, you're out of ideas when
or
the time
you're
machine...
about to create problems.
Yeah, there was a great Rick and Morty episode about this where like Rick always says like, we're not doing time travel stuff, it never goes anywhere, and he's right. And there's one where like they create all these paradoxes endlessly, and I don't know if you're a fan of Rick and Morty.
I've only watched a few episodes. It's one of those shows I think I need to watch because it looks great, and every you know when you see clips of stuff and you're like, that's great, I'm going to watch that one day, and just never do.
Yeah,
that's basically
I think the fan base puts a lot of people off, justifiably so. There's a lot of like Reddit incel subculture nerds that are smarter than thou love Rick and Morty. So I want to just distance myself a little bit from them while I can. But there's a recurring gag in it that the Langoliers keep turning up. Whenever they start doing time travel stuff, they have Langoliers who sort of turn up, but they're sort of jive Langoliers. They come in like, oh, you broke your weak ass time again, man. What's wrong with you? And it's, which I really enjoy. And there's an episode where they're doing a time travel bit and they create all these paradoxes and it keeps getting stupider and stupider until it's like, right, the Langoliers turn up and just wipe the whole thing. And it's like, and they're saying that's all you can ever do with a time travel story, because otherwise it just keeps going into more and more plot holes, like you say, and you can't.
Yeah, I think especially with an existing narrative, I think if it's a one-off story like Primer or the Terminator, the first Terminator movie, there's like, there's a loop and that's the loop and this is how everything works. It's self-contained. That's fine.
Yeah.
I've always said I love Terminator 2, but as soon as you start doing a sequel to that, you're in problems now. You're in trouble.
But again, it's what we're talking about, right? You're having enough fun in Terminator 2 that you can kind of ignore it, right? Absolutely.
Terminator 2 is a tremendous film, despite the fact that it kind of adds lots of problems.
Yeah.
It's great in spite of its problems because it's just such a well-directed, well-made movie. But Endgame, oh Jesus! Like, because it wasn't even necessary.
No, well, you could have written something else, but they decided to go for time travel instead.
I assumed that all of the people that were snapped were in the soul gem.
Right, yeah.
So I thought they could have just done that and then been like, well, we'll free them from the soul gem, and then they're all back anyway, and problem solved.
Yeah. But I think they just wanted to. You can really feel Marvel going, right, we're done. This is the end of this bit. We're done. We're going to throw everything at the wall and just, And
I think that's fine and admirable if you then stop.
Yes,
because now it's like,
the problem.
What are you going to do now, guys?
Well, this ties into. I said we should start recording, so I had a sort of rant I wanted to go on.
Because you did indeed.
You were talking about.
Let's start this podcast with a rant.
Well, you were talking about Godzilla movies and how you prefer them when it's a guy in a suit kicking over cardboard boxes.
That's what I'm all about.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and I think you probably agree with me on this, although I don't want to speak for you. But it's more. You do better work when you have limitations, right? And we were talking about CGI and how CGI has lost all charm, because now that you can do basically anything you can imagine, it makes for worse work,
Star Wars,
great example.
Perfect example. A New Hope, in fact, that original trilogy, but particularly I think A New Hope, is defined by its limitations. Like that movie. If you gave George Lucas CGI back in the 70s to make A New Hope, because if you hear a lot of his original ideas that he couldn't do, they're awful. Yeah. It's like, thank God.
Yeah, thank God. And the same thing happens a lot with John Carpenter movies, right? Like John Carpenter got worse the bigger his budgets got. Because,
absolutely.
Like if you've had like 5 guys in a shed pretending it's the Arctic, it makes a great movie. And then you have like CGI, Ghosts of Mars and all this.
Ghosts of Mars is,
terrible.
My goodness. I think that might be one of his worst films, actually. I would put that near the bottom of his films.
Yeah, but again, had a much bigger budget than The Thing, than Halloween, than Assault on Precinct 13, which again is people in a room being fired on by silent weapons, which makes for there's that really interesting scene where like the papers are dancing on the desk where the bullets are landing. But, because again, it's limitations, right? You can't do big pyrotechnical gunfights, so you're just doing a bit of paper being kicked around by the
I have a soft spot for Assault on Precinct 13. I always remember that girl getting shot in the head though. It's like the like defining shot of that movie is that girl getting shot.
I saw the remake, which I want to say was Ethan Hawke, one of those entirely forgettable
remakes.
That
is on Netflix, I think, and I've been tempted, but I haven't.
I saw it at the cinema. I can't remember anything about it whatsoever, other than that I know I've seen it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. There's a few films like that.
I was doing a series. I was writing a series. I've kind of stopped it. I might try and do it as a book at some point and like condense them down, because it's people keep reading them, even though I stopped writing them. People keep going back and reading them again. But I was doing rom-com purgatory because my fiance is a playwright and she was doing a project related to rom-coms. So we had to watch a lot of rom-coms, and I realized like halfway through this that like I was looking at a Jennifer Lopez movie. I think it was Made in Manhattan. Right?
Oh, I've seen that film.
Yeah. But then there was I was like, I remember different scenes being in this. And then I realized
you've confused it with another movie.
Yeah, I'd seen 2 Jennifer Lopez rom-coms and they're so forgettable that I couldn't remember.
Interchangeable.
Yeah, and I genuinely didn't realize I'd sat through 2 of them in the cinema, in that period. And I think we're the last generation that had this, that period when we were in our teens where there was nothing else to do, the internet wasn't really a thing yet.
Nope.
So you just go to the cinema and see whatever was on. And you end up sitting through some right shit. You know?
The thing is, and I miss those days.
Yeah.
The problem is that the cinema is too expensive now.
Yeah.
I used to be able... I remember when I first moved out of my parents, I was going to the cinema every weekend.
Ooh.
And we used to do... I used to have a YouTube show.
Yeah.
And I used to review a film every week from the cinema. Now, I would be bankrupt within like a month if I tried.
I always wonder because like Cineworld used to do that thing where you paid, I think it was like 14 quid a month for unlimited movies. Like they can't still be doing that deal, right? Because,
I wouldn't have thought so.
No.
Because that's not even the price of that's like one ticket now.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's up around like £12 to £16, I want to say. For
I don't know. Ticket. I haven't been since the pandemic started. So
we went. We saw. We saw The Conjuring 3. My fiance's a big fan of the Conjuring movies, and I don't mind them. So I was like, it's fine. It's an excuse to go to the cinema, and I will be going. Actually, hopefully this weekend will be my return to the cinema because I really want to see Villeneuve's Dune.
Right.
On the big screen because it feels like a big screen.
It feels like it's worth.
And I think Villeneuve's one of the best directors we have around today in terms of young talent. So I will be. But how did you find your return to the cinema?
I find everything a little bit odd these days. I think everybody does. Like even being in a city, because I live in Brecon at the moment, which is not a particularly big town, or is not a particularly densely populated town.
No.
So whenever I'm in a crowd now, I feel slightly uncomfortable. It's just slightly odd. Yeah, it's a weird thing.
Yeah, it is odd.
Yeah, I'm still doing the mask thing wherever I
me
I
too.
go. Yeah, I don't know, it just seems like a good idea.
Yeah, well, it's not really a problem, is it?
No, exactly. There was an interesting thing, and we're getting way off topic. From movie
but
stuff.
This is called the Excurse.
Well, exactly.
Rambling is part of the deal. I kind of named it. I was looking up names. I was like, what can I call this that people haven't used yet? And I saw Excurse and I was like, I do tend to ramble, so that's fine.
Yeah.
That works.
Well, I saw a thing today. Robert Evans, the American journalist whose work I'm a big fan of, he was talking about the guy who coined the phrase "the end of history" at the end of the Cold War. Right? The idea that like without two great world powers in opposition to each other, there's nothing left to do for the human race. We're kind of done. He called it the end of history, which is a stupid name, and everybody agreed on it. But one of the things that he said was interesting. He said that like basically, as the sort of American model of life spreads out across the world without anything in opposition to it, people are going to get bored with being free and having enough to eat, and they're going to start kicking against it, right? And now we see these people going like, I'm not wearing a mask, I'm being oppressed. And you go, it's exactly that, right? It's like, you're not. Put a bit of cloth on your face for 10 minutes. You're going in the supermarket.
I agree. I think a lot of what we see in society these days is down to we've got it so good.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we've just got it so ridiculously good that now we've got the time and
or not even that we've got things good, because there are huge structural problems, but they're not addressing those because they're too much work. So you just pick a nitpick that you want to be angry about. Like the housing situation is horrendous, the planet's on fire, all this stuff is going, but solving those is difficult. So I'm just going to complain that I have to put a bit of cloth on my face instead because that's easier.
Absolutely.
But we've wandered off somewhat from
that's all right.
From creativity.
Like I said, this doesn't need to be movie centric or anything.
Yeah.
We have got a movie podcast, but obviously your podcast is somewhat movie based. I guess, like you said, you're going to branch off.
Yeah, well, we started doing it about a year ago, as I was saying to you, and then like we've got like a year's worth of material just on films, and we need to do some books and TV and stuff at some point. But I'm not sure where to. I was considering, because the premise of the podcast basically, because my fiance is sort of award-winning playwright and script doctor.
I loved that there was an intro to one of yours. I can't remember which one it was, but I loved when it was like award-winning playwright and Luke.
Yeah, and I'm here too. Yeah. So the premise for it that we initially came up with was taking things that don't work and analysing why they don't work and saying like this.
Sure.
And I'm considering. I don't think it's really worth it because it's too. I think the rot set in so long ago that it's no longer worth trying to fix it. But I was considering, because we're doing a Halloween season, doing The Walking Dead, the TV series, right?
Sure.
Which for 2 series was great, and then just got progressively stupider and stupider and stupider.
Well, interestingly, my fiance is a huge fan of The Walking Dead. I had never watched it because The Walking Dead come out at a time when I was so bored of zombies.
Yes,
I was done.
Yeah.
So I didn't even bother. She loves it, and she introduced me to it. And do you know what? For a good few seasons, that show was great. My favorite season is the season that everyone seems to hate the most, or like the least, I guess, which is the one entirely set on a farm. Right. They go to a farm, and you've got this deeply religious
that was the second one. Yeah, who thinks he can cure the zombies because it's his family. They're alive and they're God's creatures and should be left alone. And that I was like, God, if I was going to make a movie of The Walking Dead, that's it. But then it kind of feels like a lot of series. It got to a point where it's like, they get to a place called Alexandria, don't they? And it's like, that's the end. Yeah,
they got to a place, they've found Sanctuary done.
They just have to keep doing the same beat again. We get somewhere we think it's safe, but it turns out it's not safe because people, which are the real monsters, so then we have to find somewhere else that's safe. But it turns out that's not. And just rinse and repeat. And
you get those issues with things like this as well, especially with zombie movie series, especially. It's bad enough in movies, but in series is even worse, where it's like they work out by the end of season 1 how to distract and keep zombies occupied.
Yeah. So the zombies aren't a threat anymore. Yeah, exactly.
It kind of relies on their stupidity to end up creating problems for the most part.
This is one of the things that we're doing a series on Masters and Disasters, I think I said about the Wicker Man thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do Alien versus Alien Covenant. And I said one of my major bugbears with that is that one of the things I love the most about Alien is that in any situation, they react intelligently to the problem that they have, right?
Yes.
And then what stymies them is that the alien is evolving faster than they can keep up with it, right?
Yeah.
But at no point...
They adapt to what they think is the alien. The alien has grown and changed. Yes,
exactly, yeah. But at no point do they do anything stupid. Right? It's like, even when...
I must admit, if I was John Hurt, I would not have gone down. But that's that. I can imagine someone being curious enough to do that. Whereas when you get to Prometheus, you've got these weird situations like where this guy's terrified of everything, but then he sees a massive space vagina plant and he's like, oh, let's touch that. Yeah. Like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Prometheus and Covenant both have people just blundering around poking things randomly. And it's like, well, you wouldn't do that.
And, like landing on a planet, not wearing a helmet or anything, and just walking out and just being like, this is fine. Like, really?
Exactly. So, like, that's, like I say, that is the problem with things like The Walking Dead, is that people have to stop behaving intelligently past a certain point, because otherwise you've got no plot left.
Yeah, effectively. I know they tried to make it more about the community and the different the warring communities.
But then it just became a soap opera with zombies in it, and the zombies are barely in it anymore. The zombies aren't even an issue, like you said.
No, rarely ever an issue.
I was considering also doing World War Z, the book versus the Brad Pitt abortion, because I think that encapsulates. I know, like everyone is zombied out to
the luckiest plane crash in history. Doesn't he? Like, I watched it in the cinema, and doesn't he? He's like in a plane crash, but the plane crashes right outside the lab he needed to go to.
Yeah, and Doctor Who is there. Peter Capaldi's there.
Yes, Peter Capaldi's there.
Which I can't take Peter Capaldi seriously yet, ever since The Thick of It.
Oh, The Thick of It is one of the best shows. If you've never watched The Thick of It, watch The Thick of It.
I just wanted a really aggressive, angry, sweary Doctor Who, and I never got it. And that was a great. Yeah.
They kind of hinted at it a few times. Didn't they? They had like a joke of like someone said, "Oh, you like." They read his mind like, "Oh, you're very angry." But they obviously, as a children's show, they can't. You know.
Yeah, I'm going to be using a lot of what you call sexual swear words in the comment. I love stuff like that.
Colourful imagery.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm considering doing World War Z as well, just because that, I think, covers all of the zombie beats that ever need to be covered in any zombie conversation. You've got the book has slow zombies, the movie has fast zombies, the book is good, the film is bad. The book is all about being overwhelmed by...
I have never read it. Is it a novel or is it a graphic novel? Or...
It's a book, but it's done in a sort of portmanteau style, where basically it's just interviews with the survivors of the zombie apocalypse. And it starts with like a guy... Really interestingly, because we're deep in the realms of fiction here, so like try and stretch your brain and imagine this. But a weird virus breaks out in China, and the Chinese government try to cover it up, but they don't.
Wow. An unheard of situation.
It could never happen. I know.
No, I know.
But then it gets out and goes worldwide, and then in America, they're tracking it through the interviews basically. So they interviewed like the first Chinese doctor to encounter it, and then you're getting into like the American situation where again. Total fiction, but like in America, people are selling like snake oil cures to prevent you becoming a zombie. Like they would never do if there was any sort of real infection. That
no.
Couldn't happen. So they're interviewing people that like made millions off of doing that, and then like the situation's getting worse and worse. They're interviewing soldiers that were at various battles, and it's all completely unrelated sections. And then
that sounds like a much more interesting film than the film they made.
Yeah, which is Brad Pitt running away from something for 90 minutes.
I'm a huge sucker for anthology movies and series. I love anthology stuff because quite often I find, especially with TV shows, they haven't got enough material to last the length of the show. Yeah. So then they have to have filler and pointless stuff. Whereas anthologies, you can be concise. I mean, probably, in my opinion, maybe the greatest TV show of all time, if I think about it, is The Twilight Zone. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned. I like that. Like, here's a weird situation that someone's in, and then we've done that story, and we're gonna move on to the next weird story, and we're not gonna do like a 10-part, 22-episode series or something.
I think this is the curse of TV these days, as well as everything. Like you say, has to be 10 parts long and has to, and has to have, and like you say, get in, do the story, get out again.
Which is weird now, because with subscription models and Netflix and stuff, you don't have to do the 12, 22, 10 model. You could do ever many episodes you want. Yeah. You know?
Did you? I haven't talked to you about this yet. Did you finish Midnight Mass?
No, I just haven't had time. We're doing Halloween specials for Casey's and Kelly's, and the books are longer, so I've been busy doing that. No. But and obviously that I need to watch movies for the Movies Made Us Do It Halloween stuff. So no, I haven't, but I love what I've seen so far. I think it's really good so far, but I will warn you, I'm only on that episode 3.
Okay.
So I'm curious what your opinion, without spoilers, like roughly...
I will just tell you that I tapped out.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, again, and we were saying while we were watching it, this could be shorter. This could you could condense this.
Yeah, that's a shame.
It gets to a point where I was like, no, too stupid, I'm done.
Oh, okay. It's not got very stupid yet. It's kind of obviously there's supernatural things happening, weird things happening, but it hasn't flipped that switch in my head where it's like, oh, you've gone too far. But I am quite early in. Yeah, it is 10 parts, right?
I think so. Yeah. I think there's this real confusion at the moment, which I think is a top-down problem with like movie studios, because like people that run Hollywood are fucking idiots and on a lot of cocaine usually. Yeah. You know, did you see the Kevin Smith rant about Barbara Streisand's hairdresser?
No, I don't think I have.
He talked about like in the 90s he was hired to write a Superman movie. For what
I have heard about his Superman movie.
Yeah,
wasn't that with the giant spider, which then ended up being in Wild West? Yeah,
the guy that insisted on that was a producer who used to be Barbara Streisand's hairdresser, and then he said in Hollywood you can fail upwards, so he ended up running a studio. Right?
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's like those kind of people are in charge. They're like, right, we're gonna have a giant spider in this, and we're gonna do Speed 2 Cruise Control, which nobody ever saw.
Wow, I saw it.
Yeah, nobody except us ever saw it. But the ending...
Speed was great, so of course I saw Speed 2.
Well, the ending where... and spoilers for a film that nobody saw and never will. The ending...
And shouldn't, by the way.
Yeah, the ending where a cruise ship like smashes into a town.
A town made of matchsticks.
Yeah. Apparently the producer had a dream where a boat crashed into a town. He was like, that's a great image. We need to make a film with that in it. And it was written backwards from that. Because these people at the top are useless, like I say, and they're all ex-hairdressers and they're all 100 years old. Separate rant. But anyway, I think there's this real problem in the media these days where like people don't know what should be a movie and what should be a TV series and how long it should be, and like you don't have to follow these formats necessarily anymore. But sometimes you see something that got commissioned as a TV series and you go, this could be a 2-hour film. This is going on way too long.
Yeah.
And then you see a film that like has themes in it. You go, this could have been a TV series. You could have expanded this, but you're not. You know, and it's nobody knows what anything is anymore.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because they don't have to follow, like you said, they don't have to follow that format. And it's weird, especially when it's someone like Netflix, because I've said for a long time, Netflix just don't know. I don't know what Netflix are thinking.
No.
This Netflix formula of release all of the episodes at once is such a broken, awful model.
Yeah.
Because all that means is that, like, we do podcasts.
Yeah.
We talk about movies, TV. If you release all episodes at once, we will talk about it for 1 week.
Yeah.
And never talk about it again.
Very good
If you release it weekly, monthly, like Amazon Prime tend to do, then I'm talking about it way longer. The publicity's way longer. And it's like, if you're not even going to do that and just release it all in one go, then what is the point of having this many episodes? Just have as many as you need and stop.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think, like I say, it's a production thing because people don't know what's going to be a hit, what's going to be successful, so they want to stick as safe as possible, which again is why we have 15 different Spider-Man reboots, you know, because like, well, people like Spider-Man, so we're going to keep doing Spider-Mans, you know, and it's what gets greenlit is
and Batman
we were saying the trailer has dropped for The Batman.
Yes, the second trailer, because they did a
little one which wasn't very interesting, where he beats a guy up for about 4 minutes straight, which was okay. And now they've done the full one, and we both said,
it doesn't look terrible. It looks well. I will say it looks well directed.
Yeah,
it looks well shot.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's Matt Reeves, isn't it? And I was a big fan of his Planet of the Apes movies, which I thought were going to be awful.
No, they turned out to be great. Yeah,
I remember going in. He didn't direct the first one,
right? Yeah.
I think he directed the sequels, which were equally great. I remember going into that first movie with such a chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be awful. Planet of the Apes is an all-time great movie, the original, not the Tim Burton one. And I was like, they're going to ruin it. It's going to be awful. And I couldn't be more happy to be wrong.
Yeah.
This is the thing when people think you're angry, you just want to be right. It's like, no, I want to be wrong.
Yeah.
If I say something's going to be awful, I want it to be good.
Yeah.
I really do.
It may sound like it, but we don't live to put the boot into things. We like watching good stuff.
I'm not paying like 12 quid to go see a movie to hope that it's rubbish.
Yeah. Yeah. That first one was good. I think the second and third ones were better.
They were definitely better. Yeah. Fantastic films. So he's a great director, and shot composition, everything looks great. It's just Batman Begins again, though, isn't it? It's like we're doing early Batman, and it's grounded. It's like, well, that's not.
We did that.
It's not original, and also I think it's a mistake.
Yeah,
I think the idea, as soon as you ground something as ridiculous as Batman, it just becomes infinitely more stupid.
Yeah,
like Dark Knight Rises, the last one, which I think is awful. It's like the worst of the trilogy.
Definitely the weakest one.
That film would have probably been fine.
Yeah.
The whole nonsense plot would have been fine if it happened in a ridiculous world. But because they were so insistent on grounding it, you're instantly like, none of this makes sense. How does he do that? How does he get there? How does he do this?
Yeah.
If it was Ben Affleck's Batman, I'd be like, cool, it's Batman. He just found a way.
There was an airline that apparently existed briefly in the movies during that period because Bruce Wayne gets out of a hole in the desert and then flies back to Gotham, apparently for free. And it was the same year that I think it was Skyfall. James Bond is in the Caribbean getting drunk and then just turns up back in London. It's like you fell off a bridge and swam to shore and then just
but somehow.
What is this airline? How do I get tickets? You can go anywhere for free. Obviously, they went out of business shortly after those films were released.
I would assume so. That's why you don't hear about them anymore.
If you compare Rises to Begins, it's a completely different world, and it doesn't work. I think I'm just a bit Batmaned out. I mean, I think
I'm superheroed out.
I think the world is Batmaned out. He's been going since 1938. You know, like it's nearly 90 years at this point. It's just and also I think we are at a period in time where like worldwide fascism is worryingly on the rise, and like billionaires are all assholes, and it's like
it's a hard sell, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't want to watch a billionaire beating up purse snatchers anymore because it's a little bit uncomfortable.
That's the problem, isn't it? It's like, well, I mean, there is that kind of meme, and the meme exists for a reason, where they're like, you realize that if Bruce Wayne just donated money, he'd do more good than Batman's ever done.
Yeah, he would solve more crime.
And that's absolutely true, which again is why you should not ground these movies.
Yeah,
you need to keep them comic booky, because otherwise, if you put it in the real world, then real world economy and logic exists, and then I have problems with your film.
Yeah, there's a George Martin line, the Game of Thrones guy, not the Beatles producer. Although you never saw them in a room together, I'm just saying.
No, you never know.
George Martin
There's
said...
a conspiracy.
Yeah. I'll work on that. George Martin had a line about what was Aragorn's taxation policy. Right? It's like it's all very well that he's the king because he's got the magic sword, but okay, how do you run a kingdom? That's never addressed, right? And it's that exact thing. You can have fantasy or you can have reality, but it's really hard to do both. And
you could assume that everything just immediately went to shit shortly after the book or the films ended, like because he had no idea what he was doing. He's like, I was a ranger. I was just living off the land. I don't know anything.
He knows how to attack something with a sword. If he's got a real problem on his hands, he's not gonna. But it's exactly that, right? And again, do we need... I think, I would hope that the cycle of grittiness is finally coming to an end, because the world is gritty enough, right?
I'm sick of it. I want to have fun. I want escapism. I don't even... it's funny, isn't it? For years and years, I always wanted intelligent films with messages.
Yeah.
And now that we're in the state we're in, I just want escapism. I don't care about messages.
That would be an interesting one. Who would we get to be Camp Batman? Do you want to stick with Robert Pattinson, or like Adam West is dead and 100 years old in that order?
All right, so alive today.
Yeah.
Who would I get to play like Camp Silly Batman?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good question.
I don't know who's really available these days. I don't know who's.
No, because the obvious one is like someone like Chris Pratt, which is just not the way to go. I don't know, because you want almost someone that like. You almost want someone that plays it straight.
Yeah.
Because that was always the thing. With like 66 Batman, he always played it reasonably straight, like everything that was going on.
I think that's the thing, because like you say, Chris Pratt, I don't think Chris Pratt is smart enough to be in on the joke, right? No. Adam West was in on the joke, and it sort of bleeds through into like all those guys in Airplane, like Leslie Nielsen and Lloyd Bridges. They were all in on the joke as well, because they were playing versions of their straight characters that they'd done for years, and just ridiculous shit happens around them, right?
I always find that so weird, like. Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah,
when you see him in like Forbidden Planet, and then it's like, oh wow, like who would have thought? But he's great at it. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Have you got someone in mind?
No, it just occurred. I'm trying. I don't really know who the young actors are anymore. I don't know who's like.
Yeah, that's true.
And I certainly don't know who like young comic actors are, because comedy doesn't really feel like it feels like everything's gone very sort of Netflix special stand up in comedy these days. I don't.
Stand up seems to be the way it's gone. Doesn't it?
Or terrible, one of the two. You either have like Kevin James doing like and Adam Sandler making terrible movies on Netflix every week, or you just get stand-up special. You don't get good comedy. I don't want to sound like an old man going, "There's no good comedy anymore," because there is.
Oh yeah, there is for sure.
But there aren't good comedy movies. I can't remember the last good comedy movie. Free Guy I liked, but I like that for reasons other than the comedy aspects.
I reviewed Free Guy.
Yes, yeah.
The other week, last week, week before, and on your suggestion, I watched that, and I was really impressed. That was a far more heartfelt and kind of deeper movie than I was expecting, because the trailers did not do that justice. The trailers made it look like a fun action romp.
So actually, saying that, could Ryan Reynolds be Camp Batman? That's not.
Oh yeah, actually, I could see that.
Yeah, that's not a bad.
Yeah, I could see that, and he's also quite built.
Yeah, he would look the part.
Kind of pull it off. I still love Keaton's Batman,
Keaton's Batman was great.
I just love... And I've always... That's another thing as well. I really hate this, like... not that I'm going to champion or defend Snyder's Batman or whatever, but I still think that, in terms of Bruce Wayne and Batman, I think Ben Affleck is perfect.
Ben Affleck's really well cast,
But what really annoyed me was that people always get annoyed about Batman potentially killing people. And I'm like, guys... Look at the comics. He used to kill people all the time. It's implied. He may not like outright do it in frame, but
he pushes somebody out of a window.
They're dead. And that's what I always liked about Keaton's Batman. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to blow up this chemical plant. Who cares about the consequences?
I've got machine guns on my car.
Let's just poison the whole of Gotham by getting this stuff up into the atmosphere. You know.
There's never been. I know Avengers. Civil War tried to address this, like the body count of superheroes is always an unaddressed side of Man of Steel, where they spend like the last 3 hours of the movie punching each other through skyscrapers and level an entire major city. And
I was kind of at that point. Well, I mean, I wasn't a fan of the movie anyway, but at that point, I was like, okay, we're going to see like the real consequences of these superheroes fighting, and I was kind of down with it for a while until with post-apocalyptic Metropolis as the backdrop. He like comes down and jokes with Lois and kisses her, and there's like this whole jokey scene, and I'm like, you've just destroyed it. Like, how many people are dead?
You've just flattened a mile of a major city. It's
like, if that's the story you want to tell, fair enough, but you can't tone.
It's that weird sort of gear switching thing that it's always really jarring.
Let's stop for a joke in front of the post-apocalypse I've just caused.
Again, it all becomes Team America, doesn't it? Where like they blow up the Eiffel Towers. Oh, I missed. It's that kind of thing.
I love that when at the end when they're like, we saved the day, and like the whole of Paris
everything's on fire. I think superheroes, I think you're right. I think we're kind of hopefully getting to the end of that cycle as well.
They are the modern day zombies. When we were talking about being burnt out for when Walking Dead came out, I didn't even watch it because I was so sick of zombies. That's what superheroes are for me now. It's like, oh, just stop. Like, give it a rest for a decade,
But then, I mean, again...
I guess I mean people, as long as people enjoy them, they're going to keep making them, and that's fine if you enjoy that kind of thing. I think personally, I'm just burnt out on it.
It would be interesting. I have no ideas like with the Batman thing, but what's the next fad? We did zombies for 10 unrelenting years. We've done superheroes for 12, 13 years now.
I think that if they hadn't completely fucked Game of Thrones so bad in the end, I think that could have been the new
that
thing.
Sort of fantasy stuff.
It kind of felt like, because we had Lord of the Rings and that was massively popular. I think it could have gone that way, but I think like Game of Thrones, the ending might have. That's a show like went from the biggest show on the planet. No one talks about it now. No one even mentions Game of Thrones anymore. It's gone.
I didn't hate the ending, but it felt very much like they slapped an ending on that and we're done. I could have seen that ending working if they'd done it better.
If they'd given it time.
It needed another 5 or 6 episodes to establish a lot of this stuff.
There's nothing wrong with what happens, but the journey to get there was so rushed.
When they all start fast traveling like a video game and stuff. And
that was the whole point. Like early on in that show, it took them like months or like weeks to travel, and then all of a sudden,
plot point in several episodes that it takes a long time to get places.
On the travel, like traveling to a place. But to be honest, I kind of checked out of Game of Thrones around season 5, 6.
You definitely felt when they stopped relying on the books as a guide.
It clearly like they lost the rudder and it just went.
I feel really bad for this upcoming spin-off series. Is it House of the Dragon that they're doing?
Yeah, isn't that like just based off of Cliff Notes, basically?
They're doing the prequel series like 500 years before the events of Game of Thrones, and they think people are going to care, and I can see this tanking.
I can't imagine anyone caring anymore. I said, that show, no one talks about it anymore. It was huge. I feel really bad for the people that went out and got tattoos and stuff.
I love that Daenerys and Khaleesi became popular girls' names for a while, and then she committed genocide. And it was always wait till the end of the show before you name your kids. is the lesson there?
I think the lesson these days is if it's a fictional character, wait till the end of the show.
Yeah.
If it's a celebrity or real life person, wait until they're dead.
Yeah,
dead.
Yeah,
give it a couple of years after they're dead too, just to be sure.
I was thinking again. This is sort of getting ranty and way off topic, but I was thinking about like history is weird.
There is no topic.
Well, it's
fine.
It's a very zen show we've got here. I was thinking about history being weird. That like you say, it's not decided till everybody involved is dead, and then we decide what happened.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about like. Bob Dylan was sort of considered the voice of his generation, and I think weirdly at the last, as that generation sort of starts to fade out, the voice of their generation turns out to have been Eric Clapton, right? Who had some talent in the 60s. I don't think anybody's going to argue about that. But then like went on astonishingly racist rants in the 70s and faced no consequences for it. And now, as an old man, has become like an anti-vax champion because he was complaining that since he got the vaccine, his hands don't work very well anymore and it's hard to play guitar. I was like, you're 76. Like, basically, what he did was took all the freebies that he could get in the 60s and built his life out of it, like that whole generation did, was racist with no consequences for it, like that whole generation was. And now at the last, when he's in his 70s, he's like, I want more. I'm not done. I still want to have good hands. It's like you're nearly 80. Give it, like, just let go. But he won't. And he's whinging and wants more out of life than like that generation still does. It's like, can you all just fuck off? But apparently, the poster child for the baby boom generation is a racist, whinging twat.
I'm not concerned, but I'm like, there's this part of me that's like, I love Clint Eastwood's acting and his movies.
Yeah,
but we know that guy's got some history, and I'm really worried. Once he dies, I just feel like Clint Eastwood might get.
They might, a lot of these guys. I
think he's relatively protected, but once he's gone, I think because we know how he treated his wife.
Yeah, they never married; they were just together for years. And he was, but well, I mean,
he pretty much ruined her career.
Yeah, well, I mean. Not to defend this, because like he wouldn't have kids with her, but knocked up several other women, treated her appallingly. Sandra Locke, we're talking about, was a terrible actress with zero talent, right?
True.
So to say that he ruined her career, he did. He absolutely tried to. He did. But also
she might not have had much of a career, but he didn't give her a chance to fail.
I think it was in the movie The Gauntlet. There's a scene where Sandra Locke gets knocked out and is being carried out in a stretcher, and she can't even play unconscious convincingly. Which I think she moves. I was like, she can't even do that. For that, but I agree. Like his treatment of women is really fucking horrifying.
There are certain celebrities when you're like, given how protective they are and what glimpses we've had behind the scenes, I think.
Yeah, you worry. I don't know if we're going to do it for the podcast or if I just made B watch Every Which Way But Loose.
Goodness.
Because again, she's a sort of middle class, well educated playwright. And I was like, no, you got to watch the movie with Clint Eastwood where he's got a monkey. And she's like, what's it about? I said, I told you, Clint Eastwood's got a monkey. That's the entire plot.
Buddy cop movie with a monkey.
They just go around getting into random bar fights, and it's like there's no plot to it for 2 straight hours.
No,
it's kind of beautiful. It's kind of like surrealist art in a way.
Well, we were talking about that before the show. How things can be so terrible terrible that they come right back around and become something unexpectedly brilliant.
And it got a sequel, you know? Like there were two.
Yeah.
And I think...
It's because people love monkeys. This is why there's so many goddamn Jurassic Park movies.
Yeah, people like
just
dinosaurs.
love dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It's like, dinosaurs, great.
But do something with them. Like I haven't seen the second Chris Pratt one. The first one was enough for me.
The first one was bad. The second one, it's like, I'm not kidding. The second one has a scene where Blue, the Velociraptor from the first one, is being experimented on or something,
right? And
is crying.
Oh,
now do Velociraptors even have tear ducts? Like, how does that work?
I don't believe so.
I was like, what am I watching?
God, there was something interesting there. There was a thing I read about teaching apes sign language, right? Which
that's the thing.
Well, which has had some success, and it's debated as to how successful it's been, and whether apes can learn language. There's a good documentary called The Story of Nim about a chimpanzee that they tried to teach language.
Right.
Based off of Noam Chomsky, he made an argument, a linguistic argument. He said animals can't do language because they don't have syntax, right? You can teach an animal dog bites man or man bites dog, and it doesn't understand the difference because it doesn't understand how to order things correctly. They can't do that, right? That was his argument. So then this weird hippie scientist couple adopted a chimp and named it Nim Chimpsky as a fuck you to Noam Chomsky.
Okay.
And then tried to sort of raise it to talk, and it like basically horribly traumatized this chimp because eventually they had to stop the experiments, and then they just put it in a zoo, and obviously it's like trying to talk to the other chimps, and it doesn't.
Yeah, we can't even communicate.
Yeah, it doesn't know how to be a chimp anymore because it's been raised like a person, and
just leave him alone.
But I was reading a thing on this about like chimpanzees or primates learning to sign, and there was a woman who had trained some chimps to sign and had worked with them quite closely, and she had been pregnant and miscarried and had to take time off work as a result of it. And she said she came back and one of the chimps was really sort of off with her because she'd gone away and abandoned him. You know, it was like sulking with her.
Yeah.
And she sort of signed to me. She's like, I'm sorry, I went away. My baby died. And the chimp sort of took a minute with it and then it signed cry.
Right.
Which chimps don't have tear ducts like we do.
Yeah.
They can't cry, but it understood the correct reaction. This is sad. Yeah, you know. They can do that. Velociraptors are supposed to be lethal killing machines. We can't like
prehistoric lethal killing machines.
Even our nearest animal relative doesn't have tear ducts in the way that we do. But yeah, that's a very circuitous point to make to get back to.
I mean, that was one moment in a very vastly stupid film.
Yeah.
That film ends with them releasing spoilers. Ends with them releasing dinosaurs into the world.
Oh, great
idea!
Let
them go, and they're like, "Yeah, it's the right thing to do." And it's like,
no, it's not.
No, it's a terrible thing.
Could we all take a vote on this? And by we all, I mean human beings. It's like, could we all have like a global vote on whether we're doing this or not before Chris Pratt?
But the thing is, as well, is like they released them into like New York or wherever the hell they are, and it's like the next movie is called Jurassic World something or other, right?
It was World Kingdom, and
so now the dinosaurs are out, and I'm assuming,
which means we're getting smaller. World Kingdom, so village logically
is
the next
Jurassic Village. Well, the thing is, I was like, this is like Tron Legacy again, right? It's the Tron Legacy thing, and I've softened on Tron Legacy. Tron's one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies of all time. I love Tron; it's great. Sequel, not so much, although I have softened on it. But that has the same problem. The villain's plan with Tron Legacy, he's in the computer world, and his plan is he's raising an army to storm the real world, and he's going to escape in the same way that the humans have traveled into the computer world.
Okay.
But then it's like, well, A, you're making a big leap assuming that your technology even works when you get out there.
Yeah.
But also, best case scenario, you get your army out there. You've got an army of spandex-wearing dudes with frisbees versus the US military.
Yeah.
Right? Short movie.
Yeah. That's one drone strike and we're done.
And it's the same with this. It's like, so they're going to let the dinosaurs out, and then, like, within 24 hours, they've all been shot dead.
Yeah, exactly.
End of film.
Yeah.
Like,
it's kind of...
Because, like, I know... T-Rex is big and scary, but they're way too big. And the military, one thing they're really good at is shooting things.
Yeah, and especially when it's a bigger target, right? They're easier to shoot.
The bigger, the worse, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that first Avengers movie where like Loki gets an army and they're all crap, right? They're all sort of like space goblins in their pants, and like and you can punch them to death. And it's like, well, this is
it's those things where you're like, you just have to kind of let it go and let it happen for the sake of the narrative. Because one of the things we watched that awful Zack Snyder zombie heist movie.
Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead, which is a terrible film.
It is.
One of the things I will give it credit for, though, as I said on my review, is like the one thing they got right is the outbreak.
Yeah.
Because zombie outbreaks, especially slow zombies, it's not escaping the town or city.
Yeah, it's very containable, and they do contain it. Yeah.
You know, they're either all going to be shot or they're going to be contained. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes I think you have to let these things go for the sake of the narrative.
Yeah, God, I hated Army of the Dead. That was
awful.
Yeah.
But interestingly, your podcast, just trying to get back to the point.
I remember that. Yeah.
It's like 44 minutes in, we're like, oh yeah, the podcast. You've done a few where you've looked at remakes and sequels, and I'm curious what your opinion, like, broadly on the remakes and also those, like, we're gonna do a really late, like 20 years later, we're doing a sequel that's basically a remake. Like, where do you stand on those? Because obviously we got like Ghostbusters Afterlife coming out.
Yeah,
We've
got not enthused
Ghostbusters
about that.
2016 and The Thing and all of those kind of, and prequels as well. That's the other thing, the other one.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about this, and I agree that, like, the story isn't the main thing. If there's enough story that you can tell more story, then by all means do.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that requires time, right? Like, it is interesting to come back to something, and like the characters are old now, and how they,
yes,
like, that is interesting. I'm not against doing sequels necessarily.
No.
Right? But then I also feel that, like, stories should be self-contained, right? I was ranting about Prometheus, because it's written by Damon Lindelof, and I said this, that, like, Damon Lindelof's 3 basics of storytelling is that it should have a beginning, a middle, and fuck you, right? Because, like, he did Lost, where, like, we'll set everything up, and then we'll
I quit
off.
Lost in season 2. It was clear, even by that point, that they had no idea.
Yeah.
It was just, they were just making shit up.
And then Prometheus just ends with them looking for another planet as a cliffhanger, so that's not an ending. Like, Damon Lindelof cannot write endings. So, like, stories should be self-contained. If there are other stories that can be told based around that, good, and like I say, sometimes that is a time thing. Remakes, I try to take on a case-by-case basis.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think people... I think it's too easy these days to immediately write off a remake.
Yeah.
Where, there have been some fantastic remakes. I would say if there's a ratio, it's probably on the bad side more than good. But, you've got, like, Nosferatu the Vampire.
Yeah.
Fantastic remake.
Yeah.
Body Snatchers remake.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
The Thing, again, is a remake of Thing from Another World.
And I love The Thing from Another World, but I also think The Thing, very different movie, but it's fantastic.
Jeff Goldblum's version of The Fly, much better than the...
Absolutely. And I love the campy...
Yeah.
The campy version of that, but yeah, it's fantastic, fantastic remake. So
I have campaigned for a lot. Well, not campaigned, but I have said for a long time that and I'm going to try and do this on the podcast at some point, there needs to be a remake of The Searchers with John Wayne.
Okay.
Which is, like, rated as, like, John Wayne's greatest movie. It was always Wayne's favourite out of his own work. It is too neutered and too all over the place and too 50s, really, for its own good, right? The plot, briefly, is John Wayne is a sort of... He's a ex-Confederate soldier who is now kind of homeless and just wandering the world because he's this sort of broken man. He's lost a war, he has no place in the world anymore, and he goes to his brother's house, and it is implied that there was something between John Wayne and his brother's wife, and that there's something going on there. And then while John Wayne's in town, Indians attack and kill everybody and kidnap his niece.
Right.
And so it becomes this, like, epic revenge thing where, like, John Wayne is determined to get his niece back. But sort of the longer it goes on, first of all, you start to wonder, is this his niece? Because there's something interesting there. Yeah. And there's also, we start to realize that he's insane, right? That he was
already insane or is being driven insane?
Possibly both. That he is obsessed with, like, killing Indians as his, like, whole life's work.
Yeah. And
that, like, there's a scene where, like, they come across an Indian's body and he shoots the eyeballs out of it because that means they can't enter the afterlife. In the, and you slowly start to realize that he is crazy and obsessed, and you realize that he's not going to rescue his niece, he's going to kill her because she is one of them now, and that she has become their property. I
don't think I've seen this film.
No.
criminally, as if it's one of his best. I'm surprised,
but the thing is, I think it sucks, right? But the themes are fantastic, and that needs, because like you
100%. That's when you should remake something,
because you can't really drill down all this stuff about like incest and obsession and racism and all this really dark material is in there, but it's done in like 1952, so it's all, and then there's like campy musical numbers, and there's like a comedy Mexican in it, and it's like, I want this to be what it could be rather than.
I think that's it, isn't it? Some films. It's interesting that more often than not, they don't remake the films that should be remade. Like I always thought, I kind of have mixed feelings on it. I kind of half like it, half don't. But I was a big champion when it was coming out for Peter Jackson's King Kong,
right?
Because I think King Kong's one of the greatest films ever made. But clearly limited in the time it's made, and of why not give that the full treatment it deserves? And I think when it's worthwhile, like Nosferatu the Vampire, you're taking a silent movie and you're expanding the story and doing Werner Herzog things, and cool, great. And the thing vastly different from its original movie, and a better film for it probably, to be honest.
Although again, we may now sort of come full circle to argue against ourselves, because we were saying that like having more technology and more freedom to do things that are in your imagination leads to worse work. Sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it doesn't, and it depends where you apply that.
Yeah, it? Absolutely.
I think, and especially we're talking about other people remaking something that is someone else's vision, isn't it? Whereas, yes, certain directors like George Lucas, the more, like we said, the more they got, the worse it got.
Again, that was the problem with Peter Jackson's King Kong, right? He could do it. I'm going to do a 9-hour King Kong movie.
King Kong does not.
The original is like an hour and a half. It's pacey, That's you just needed a better looking monkey in it. That was your problem.
That's it. Yeah.
I know it's an ape, and also the phrase "you just need a better looking monkey" is
it
not
winds
often.
people up when you say it, so you should say it more.
I know, you all know what I mean. I understand the difference. Jesus Christ. I was saying to you that I might do a series, if I can really subject myself to it, of ranking all of the cheap free on Amazon Bigfoot movies that there are.
Well, given that we looked it up before the show and there are 14 pages
of results just on Amazon for Bigfoot
think
stuff.
You're going to be busy.
Well, I started watching one last night that was literally it was like released in like 2018, 19. It's really recent, and it looks like it was filmed on a phone, right?
It probably was.
So I might do that. I might go mad if I do that. So I might not subject myself to it. We'll see.
It's quite an undertaking. Again, that's a zombie movie. Again, it's things that are very cheap to make.
Yes, yeah.
So we can make like 1 million of them. Like the first low budget movie that almost everyone makes is a zombie movie. Right. It's like, just a bit of makeup and we're done.
Oh, well, like including George Romero, who struck gold with
it.
Of
course. Well, I'm not saying they're all bad. I'm just saying that's generally that's where you get a lot of low budget zombie movies.
What's interesting, just thinking about it now, is that you never get low budget vampire films, when that's very easy to do as well. You just need some pointy teeth and some fake blood, and you can just, you can do that.
You're right, actually. You don't get too many of the vampires.
Or again, like not the glut of them that you get with zombies and Bigfoot, and you know. And again, I would argue that Bigfoot is harder to do well than a vampire. You got
to do well, absolutely.
Not to do as has been proven.
You can definitely make them.
You can do it,
but to do them well, certainly. Especially when it comes to the creature effects and stuff, that's going to cost you some to get that right, be it CG or be it practical. So we're kind of circling around, weren't we, to CG versus practical, and our preferences and where it's applicable and where it's not.
We went back recently, or I went back and for the first time, we watched the Blade movies, and I think aside from anything else, because me and her have very different tastes, we were raised very differently in terms of media. So we did a deal that like she would watch Blade and I would watch To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, which is Wesley Snipes as a drag queen, right?
Okay.
And first of all, what's really striking to me is how good Wesley Snipes is. He's a much better actor than you think, based on...
he just... He's another one like... I see him much like I see Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
Where people think Sylvester Stallone's just a dumb action guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, Sylvester Stallone's a very talented actor. He just realised that he'd make more money not being a talented actor.
Yeah, exactly.
If you see him acting and stuff, he's amazing. He's a great director, great writer, great actor. And the same with Snipes. Snipes just knows what made him money, which is why he tended to go for those
direct-to-video action films.
That's what made him money.
But Wesley Snipes really good. Like, it's a crime crime that he doesn't get more, or that he doesn't do more serious work. But we watched the Blade movies, and we watched 1 and 2. I didn't bother with Trinity.
No, don't bother with Trinity. Yeah.
But I remember liking Blade and loving Blade 2, which was Guillermo del Toro. And I'm going back. Actually, doesn't hold up.
Which one?
Either. This time, I much preferred Blade.
Yes.
Blade is still really good. Blade 2, I remembered it being great. Actually, not.
Again, Blade has aged horribly visually with the visual effects, but again, plot.
Yeah. Better
you can get through it.
But this was the thing. I remember seeing Blade 2 in the cinema, and I remember liking that it had a mix of CGI and real in-camera effects with like the prosthetic heads for the Reapers.
It suffers with that was when Del Toro, because he made Hellboy around that time as well, and both films suffer from that. We'll just stick a big CGI thing at the end.
Yes,
big CGI monster. I remember loving the designs on the, what are they called, Reapers?
Yeah,
the hybrid vampire,
the new strain of vampirism.
And I always like movies. I always like those cheesy sequels, like X2, where they have to team up with the bad guys. It's like, so Blade's going to team up with the vampires now, and you got Ron Perlman.
Yeah, Ron Perlman's always great.
Being Ron Perlman.
They wasted Donnie Yen in that film. He's in like 2 scenes, and that was
Donnie Yen is one of the most wasted bloody actors. They'll put him in a movie. It's like, let's put him in like Highlander Endgame. Not the Highlander Endgame's not a good movie, guys. But just as an example, let's get Donnie Yen and then have him barely in it and barely fight. I'm like, it's Donnie Yen. Like, why would you have him not have him fight?
It's interesting that's another crossover point. So Blade 2 had that mixture of prosthetics and CGI, and the CGI doesn't look good, but the prosthetics
do. Yeah.
But then also, like, let's see, you got Donnie Yen, and around the same period, there was that fad for like getting Jackie Chan to be in a movie and then CGIing him, and it's like. Again, why are we bothered? You could get anybody to be a CGI kung fu guy. You get the guys who can actually do this, and then you don't use them. And again, it's always better in camera when it's really being done in things
absolutely.
like that.
You know? As a brief aside, and I'll try and keep it a brief aside. We'll probably end up talking about this for 20 minutes, but Jackie Chan.
Oh, I know.
I saw him in The Foreigner, which I actually thought was a great movie.
Yeah, that was
really
an interesting
enjoyed
one.
it.
Yeah,
but it's so sad seeing him shuffle around now.
Yeah,
he shuffles. He can't even walk anymore. The amount of damage that man's done to his body. But your childhood heroes, you just hate to see him. Like, it's like, I always assumed he was going to get decapitated by a sword, circular sword, something at some point.
He lived too long. That man, unfortunately. Yeah, it's I remember trying to watch that thing he did with Johnny Knoxville. I turned it off after 10 minutes. Again, it was just sad. It was just like the gag is that like it's Rush Hour but with Johnny Knoxville, right? So like Jackie Chan's like the kung fu one, but then Johnny Knoxville's just going to get beaten up horribly because it's Johnny Knoxville, right?
Sure.
But then like the stunt work was really obviously cut into doubles for Jackie now.
Yeah,
just like you could have just stopped. You could have like please, just, and it's not like. Like, God knows Steven Seagal is a rapist and a piece of shit, right? But it is at least funny watching modern Seagal, where they obviously cut to a thinner, younger man to do anything other than sit on a chair
He doesn't even dub his own lines anymore. The last movie I saw him in, he literally... I mean, I think the last movie I saw him in, he was sat in a car the whole movie. I don't think he even stood up.
Yeah.
And also, anytime it wasn't showing his face, it was clearly not his voice. Yeah. Like, he even got someone else to dub his voice. He's that lazy now.
I'm a fan of 1900 Hot Dog, the website, which is Sean Baby and Robert Brockway from Cracked back in the good old days. They've got a site now and a podcast. But they were talking about some Steven Seagal movie where like Steven Seagal throws a guy out of a window, and then they do the shot of the guy falling out the window.
They do it like 5 times. That shot. Yeah, I've seen that movie.
Yeah, and then
for my sins.
And then Sean Baby said that like Steven Seagal does like some shit one-liner and then goes. He said, like he can see his own movie, like he's going, this sucks. He's watching it somehow through the fourth wall, going, this is bad. Even I know this is bad. But
he doesn't care anymore.
But Jackie Chan is a real tragedy. Like I say,
and back to your point, why would you back in what was Blade 2 like 2002, 2001, 2002?
Somewhere around there.
Why on earth would you have got Jackie Chan back then?
Donnie Yen, in fact,
or Donnie Yen and CG'd them.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
But that's because studios don't understand. I read Jackie Chan's autobiography, and he talked about this, about how like they do things so much cheaper and better in Hong Kong. He's like, I can just run up the side of the wall and jump onto the roof. I can just do that, And then if I fall off the roof, we will just land on some cardboard boxes. It's fine, And it costs the price of 10 cardboard boxes. You got the whole sequence, and you can do it in real time. You can just film that and be done.
There's real pride in that work.
Yeah, absolutely. But then he says like you do it in Hollywood, and you've got to have like the health and safety guys there, and a full stunt team, and a $1,000 crash pad to land on. And he said like if you gave me the budget of a Hollywood movie, I could make it look like fucking Avatar or something, you know, because I do this so much quicker and cheaper when I'm working at home.
He could be blue while he's
you paint him blue, I don't care.
The early 2000s are so awkward to watch. I think they're like some of the most awkward movies to watch in some ways. Those like and 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s, that awkward CGI transition. That doesn't when I think when a new technology comes out, there's this like desire to go crazy with it. And it's like way too much CG that really doesn't work.
I think it's also movies. Like the benefit of hindsight, where people like were doing like the effects in like say in the sort of mid 90s to the early 2000s, were like, this is great, nothing is ever going to look better than this. And now we go back and go, well, that's stupid, that's wrong, there's no shadow there. There's, you know, you can see a thousand. You know, I was just thinking about
bad CG looks so much worse than bad practical.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
Practical always looks better.
Yeah, because it's there, and people have got an eye line, and people are reacting to an actual thing, which is always going to look more natural than people pretending that. I was just thinking like there's some really interesting shots in Alien 3, but there's also some really bad shots of a clearly CGI alien skittering about up and down the walls, and it's a weird, awful, shiny-looking thing.
My favourite thing of Alien 3 is the alien vision. That when you see the alien running up on the ceiling.
And it's like spiralling around the...
That's great. I could have done most of the movie without even seeing the alien. Just seeing that view.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Is great. And it kind of reminded me of... American Werewolf in London. You get a few of those shots where
running through the woods
you
and
see the first person perspective. That stuff was interesting. Alien 3 is a weird one because Alien 3 have you listened to the audiobook of Alien 3? They've done
they did it with Lance Henriksen and Michael Biehn all came back.
That was kind of interesting.
I didn't listen to it.
I think the problem with Alien 3 is like what we heard of what Alien 3 was promised to be versus what we actually got. That was kind of the main problem with Alien 3.
Well, and also, we touched on this earlier. I can't remember if we were recording or not at the time, but like they were out of story.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah. they were out of story, right? Like you've got two good Alien stories to tell, which are Alien and Aliens. Like so there's one Alien and it's a horror film, or there's lots of aliens and it's an action film. Yeah. And then you've done both versions of that thing. Really.
Yeah, it's done, and I think it's really a bugbear of mine. This need. I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine online actually, and I was saying about how awful The Last Jedi was.
Yeah.
Let alone Rise of Skywalker, which I thought was even worse.
I didn't bother with either of them in the end.
I'm done now. I'm not watching anymore.
Yeah.
Like that was my last Star Wars movie, right? I was like, I'll give it a go. And even that one, I had to be coaxed into watching.
Leave a trail of food like on the way to the cinema.
Sometimes doing a movie podcast, you're like, I guess I should.
Yeah.
You know? But I'm not watching anymore. I'm done with it. But anyway, I was saying to a friend about how awful it was, and they argued. They were like, but would you just but wouldn't, like, surely it's better to have more Star Wars, otherwise you wouldn't have more Star Wars. No. And I'm like, no. And I think things should end. Yeah. And I hate this constant need to continue on. Like, and Star Wars is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you try to purposely needlessly continue a story forever and ever and ever. It's like a fascinating study of how the pitfalls of just needlessly keeping a story going beyond its end. Like, do a story earlier. Don't do more. Like the story has ended, a beginning, middle, end, as you said with Lindoff, right? The same thing. It's over.
Yeah.
Stop.
And I think it speaks to something about like the sort of fundamental and depressing lack of imagination in audiences. Like, you can have 3 Star Wars movies, and then you can imagine as many other Star Wars stories as you like in your own time, in your head.
The expanded universe did that.
There were loads of books, and there were
hit and miss, but there were stories out there.
There is something interesting going on. I think I talked about this on our podcast about the Halloween thing. There's something interesting going on with retconning these days.
I watched Halloween Kills the other day.
Oh, is it?
I was. I'll do a full review on the movies made us do it, but I was not impressed. Let's put it that way.
Enough.
What? Well, we'll get to it. Finish your point.
I was going to say that there's something interesting going on with like society is becoming less religious across the board.
It seems to, yeah.
And we don't have sort of shared mythologies anymore. So films are becoming sort of shared mythologies. And like old mythologies, like old Norse sagas and stuff, we're now having multiple choice versions of them, right? We're going back and going, like with Halloween, like none of the sequels happened. We had the first movie, and now we're jumping straight to modern Jamie Lee Curtis. And Neil Blomkamp tried to do it with Alien, right? He was going to do Alien 3. He was going to do a sequel directly off the back of Aliens.
Yeah.
And we're retconning all this stuff all the time. And it's something interesting with like multiple choice mythologies in culture is becoming quite interesting. So now you can have the Star Wars expanded universe if you want it.
Hicks wakes up in the shower. It's all a dream. It's the weirdest dream.
Yeah. Oh, well, I better get going to this mission on LV-426. Yeah, it's... But I think there's something interesting going on with that, with modern pop culture, where it's sort of fragmenting and you can have the versions of it you want and they don't necessarily have to link up anymore, you know?
Yeah, it's weird though, isn't it? Because I do think on the I haven't listened to your Halloween episode because you've reviewed Halloween, the two of you.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm kind of curious what you made of that film. But I enjoyed that film for what it was.
Yeah.
I thought it's effectively a best of, right?
Yeah.
They basically, because most of the kills in Halloween are from previous Halloween movies.
Yeah.
They just did them better in that movie.
Yeah.
And there's this awful B plot in that film with the doctor taking Michael to Haddonfield, and that whole stuff was awful. Yeah, that was silly. But that aside, I thought on the whole, it was kind of an interesting end to the story.
Yeah.
And it was nice that they tried to be like, well, it's quite a statement, isn't it? To say like, well, I think all those movies are awful.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the first movie and only the first movie, and I'm going to say all the rest are trashed. Yeah. And this is my vision, is that it's a sequel to the original movie only, which is very in vogue now.
Yeah.
But what I found interesting, and it's something really interesting I found with Halloween Kills particularly, is that Halloween movie, I could have accepted that as a one-off movie to end, and that's the continuity.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting for a filmmaker to decide to say, right, those other movies got really silly with all the supernatural stuff. I'm going to return it to its roots. Yeah. Then in Halloween Kills, fall immediately into the pitfall that all the other Halloween sequels have done. It's like you've literally just undone all of that to now redo it in the sequel. It's like, what are you doing?
What was the Terminator one where they did the same thing, where they did Linda Hamilton came back and it's just a sequel to Terminator 2.
We're Dark Fate.
Dark Fate,
Jesus Christ,
and again,
that was
does the same thing. It's like, right, we're going to go straight, we're going to do our own thing now, we're going to go back to the drawing board, and then you've still got no story left to tell, so it's shit, right? It doesn't go anywhere.
Well, and that was bizarre, because that was like, we're rebooting, and John Connor's dead, so now there's female John Connor. Yeah. And then they got rid of Skynet, but then replaced it with Legion, which look exactly the same as Skynet. It's like, why do the robots look the same?
Yeah.
Like, why are they designed exactly like Terminators? Why do they even look like that? It's bizarre.
There would be something more interesting to be done there if, like, the new future computer intelligence...
Vastly different.
Yeah, just sent drones. And now you've got to have, like, old school Arnie robots fighting like drones and stuff, which seems to be the way that killer robots are going.
Well, I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? Is that the whole idea that an artificial intelligence would be producing robots and decide that human forms are the best way to go about it.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's a ridiculous conceit to begin with.
Yeah, and we see this in The Matrix as well. Like, they're keeping us cocoon for our body heat. Then you've got to feed us. It's not an efficient way of heating anything.
No, it's really not. Yeah. Not when the sun exists.
Well, exactly, yeah. Oh, but then
suns.
Yeah, then the nuclear war scorched the sky in The Matrix.
Oh, yes, of course.
You can... But still, there's easier ways of heating stuff than just plugging people into pods and feeding them each other. And it's a really...
It's one of those, like, it's a great visual.
Yeah,
but,
true.
It's interesting. I rewatched the Matrix films because they were like sequels coming out, and I was like, okay. I remember hating the sequels.
Yeah.
Right? So I enjoyed the Matrix.
Yeah.
I hated Reloaded, and I thought Revolutions was even worse.
Yeah.
They're even worse now.
Yes.
When I rewatched them this time, I was like, oh wow, because I thought maybe I've been too harsh. No. Maybe in hindsight, no, they're even worse.
I caught the Matrix on TV probably about a year ago.
Holds up. The first one
I didn't think so. I was watching it going, I'm not enjoying any of this as much as I thought I did.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I liked the first one still when I rewatched it. It's funny because like it's got such that 2000 style, that 99 2000. Yeah. When just everyone's wearing like
everyone's got that
leather.
Morpheus got that Nokia with the slidey thing that was the coolest phone in the world.
Everyone wanted that phone when it came out. It's difficult. It doesn't bode well for this.
I'm not. I saw the trailer. I'm not excited.
I'm not watching it. I don't care. The thing is, like I said, they only made one good movie, in my opinion, and all the other movies were unnecessary. That's why. And they had the Back to the Future problem. Although at least with Back to the Future 2, they dealt with it a bit more sensibly.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, Jennifer's in the car. Fuck.
Yeah.
And the car flies now. Fuck.
Yeah.
And it's like, you never plan to make a sequel. Yeah. Fine. And then with the Matrix, it's like Neo flying off at the end. Perfect ending.
Yeah.
But now you've got a sequel where Neo has to fly.
Yeah.
And it's really dumb. And it's like, no, you should have left it there. We don't know what he's going to do. He's going to set everyone free, and that's the end of the movie. Fine.
Yeah. It's a call to revolution, and then we're done, right? It's, it just sort of breaks the fourth wall a little bit. It's like, let's, we're all ready to, But then, like you say, he's Superman now, so there's no problem he can't solve because he can fly and he's super fast and strong.
But what about 5 billion Mr. Smiths?
I mean, he should, if he can fly at supersonic speeds, be able to just pulp them all to do a flyby. Right?
It's bizarre. I always loved that bit in Back to the Future Part 2. Where like Jennifer's in the car and the writers must have been like, "What do we do with her?" Like, I don't know, knock her out.
Yeah, knock her out for a
whole
while.
Film.
It's I don't know if you have any. I'm sure you got plenty. It's a personal bugbear of mine. Is the Hollywood knockout.
Oh yeah, if you get knocked out even for a few minutes, you're talking brain damage.
Yeah,
like serious issues. I mean, there's a reason why medics are. Their boxing matches and will intervene immediately. It's really dangerous to get knocked out. These fuckers are knocked out for like an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
How many times have you heard in an action movie, how long was I out?
Yeah.
An hour.
James Bond is out for exactly long enough for it to be convenient to them. So he's been unconscious for 10 minutes. That's medically a coma at that point. And then he gets up and starts running around shooting, Yeah, I think it's anything longer in boxing. I think anything longer than 30 seconds, you have a mandatory hospital trip and brain scan at that point.
Serious issues. But our heroes just get knocked out.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. Empty coffee cups is a real thing. I don't know if you ever noticed this. It's in a lot of rom-coms. People that have got they're having a coffee with each other walking through the park and they're gesturing like this with their coffee cup because there's nothing in it and that's not how you hold the coffee cup.
You should at least put some liquid in there.
Just put some water in it. This movie cost $20 million. Get some water.
That comes back to the CGI problem.
Yeah.
You need something there.
Yeah.
It's I mean, a good theatre actor will pretend everything.
Yeah.
But theatre's over the top and it's exaggerated and it's crazy. You need reference.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. Like, faking drinking is actually more difficult than it sounds. And like you said, gesturing, the worst I find, and this is a bugbear of mine, no one ever, I don't care what the technology is, I don't care how good it is, you cannot convincingly fake drive to me.
No.
Never.
It's always on a green screen.
Because they're always over the top. It's even the best green screen. It's the driving themselves. They're always moving the steering wheel way too much.
Or the other thing that bothers me is like they'll be driving facing this and they'll turn to talk to you for like 10 or 12 seconds. Like, keep your eyes on the fucking road.
Yeah.
I mean, I have driven in California. Well, I have been driven around in California.
I'm guessing they all drive like that.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I actually won't do it. I have family in California. I've been in the car. I will not drive in LA. I fear for my life.
I have heard horror stories of LA traffic.
Guy I used to work with summed it up pretty well. He said that the problem with Americans driving is that driving is about the 7th thing that they're doing in the car, right? They're all like, they're on the phone, they're checking their makeup, and they're, and somewhere in that list they are driving a car as well. But again, American roads are sort of big and straight and easy to navigate, so they don't, and they're all automatic cars as well, so it's an easier gig, but still,
Damn. But yes, it's fake driving. That's a bugbear of mine.
People flying through the air when shot is a big thing for me because it's physically impossible. It's Newton's laws of physics.
I mean, if the bullet's hitting you that hard, it's going through you.
Yeah, well, not only that, if it's got enough force to knock you over, the shooter would fall over from the recoil because that's how that works. So that's I can't think of any other ones that I've got off the top of my head, but yeah.
No, there are you get those like pet peeves. Driving's a big one for me.
Yeah,
I always think just.
I watched the Five Bloods recently. I was saying to you, and there was a moment in that film where a woman is sat at a table and a character goes to talk to her, and because she's obviously not Vietnamese, she's a white lady, and she's smoking Gauloises. And he says, "Oh, it's nice to see another American here." And I thought, well, she's French, because that's how you do French people on screen in shorthand is they're smoking Gauloises. He said, "Oh, well, actually, I am French." Called it. I got that one. That's one of those.
Yeah, the movie stereotype is still alive and well in Hollywood.
And sometimes it's necessary. Like sometimes you need a shorthand for things. I get that, but
the thing that I always come back to and like, these things improve over time, so it's fine, and it's fine because like I'll go back and I love films from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, right? So I'm used to things being outdated. I weirdly though find like movies from the 50s less jarring than those the 90s, right? 90s feminists in movies. They just had to be bitches. Just horrible.
Yeah, where we needed shrieking Harridan to be on screen for 10 minutes, and
they always had to be. They always had to be like needlessly aggressive, and angry, all the time. It's like, thank God we're past that. But it makes movies like that really hard to watch now. You look at them back, and computers in the 90s.
Oh God, yeah.
Thinking of Jurassic Park when she's like, it's a Unix system, and she's like typing away. I'm like, what are you doing? This doesn't like represent anything you're doing on the screen.
That's a good one in the coffee cup mold. It's like you can only be good at hacking if you type really fast, right?
It's like, and there's not even a window that you're typing into. So it's like, what are you typing?
It's Hugh Jackman in Swordfish, right? Where he's like got a gun to his head and he's like, type faster to prove you're good at hacking. Hack harder. It's like, this is not how anything happens.
No, this is not how this works. But again, movie conceit.
Yeah. There's a really famous one. I think it was like CSI or one of those, interchangeable shows that your parents watch with, crime scene, something or other. Yeah. There's one of those where like there's a hacker, a bad guy, and they have to like crack where he's hidden the files, and then they work out that he has an Xbox and like he's hidden the files inside the Xbox, so they have to like play Prince of Persia to a certain level, at which point it unlocks the secret files inside. It's like, and everybody's at home.
It'd be easier just to plug the hard drive into something.
But like they're like playing Prince of Persia, and it's going like, oh, level 2, level 3, like it's a Sega game. It's like, everybody's going, this is not how any of the things in this scene work whatsoever. And then one of the characters, while the
people writing like putting video games in their movies when they don't understand how video games work anymore.
Yeah, like 60-year-old writer is trying to understand how one of the characters, while the other character is playing Prince of Persia, she's doing the moves herself in midair, like she's playing air guitar with it. And somebody's like, oh, wait a minute, you know how to do this as well. You play for a while. Then she, like, it's like, what? Just ask anybody who's ever played a video game. Just 3 or 4 questions would have improved this immeasurably.
Well, and also, like, surely you would just take the hard drive and look at the game's code and just figure it out from there.
If you knew anything about what any of those words meant, you would. Yeah, but this writer...
Well, I mean, dude, it's like, dude, you're working for, like, the FBI or something. Yeah. You can probably find the programmers of the game to figure out what's different about the game.
Round them up.
Oh, dear. Good stuff. Yeah. So yeah, this has been fun.
Yeah, this has been an interesting and very wandering.
Well, that was kind of the idea. Yeah. It's just it's a chat. I think I kind of assumed we'd end up with movies.
Yeah, that's kind of what we tend to complain about with each other.
But it's good. It's nice to have someone in the room as well. I mean,
absolutely.
Obviously my fiance records with me, but other than that, all my other podcasts are.
It's nice to get online. A trip somewhere else as well that isn't my house, which is
yeah. I find that now because obviously working from home as well. I'm just always here.
Yeah,
just always at this desk.
Yeah,
whatever I'm doing.
It's people ask like, how are you? I don't trust anybody who says okay these days, because like everybody I talk to honestly is like, look, I'm a bit worried about the future.
The worst is seeing people after, like I see my friend and you meet up in person and they're like, so what have you been up to? It's like, nothing.
We all
2 years of nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've got nothing to say. Yeah. So then I feel bad because I'm like, do I make something up? I haven't done anything.
But people say to me like, oh, I'm a bit worried about the future and I'm quite depressed and I'm drinking too much. And I go, yeah, that's normal. That's a normal reaction to where we are right now. It's the people that go, yeah, I'm great. You go, I'm not sure I trust this at all.
I'm not sure about that. Yeah, you should be concerned.
Yeah, exactly. I know I opened the podcast saying, yeah, I'm pretty good, but but aside from all the existential dread,
yes, as can be in these times.
Everything with an asterisk on it these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are you feeling about Ghostbusters Afterlife before we go? Because I feel like there's a conversation that we didn't have there.
Oh, God,
it's in the back of my mind.
So... yeah, it touches on what we were talking about, like producers not knowing how to do anything. So
because
they've gone.
You reviewed the 2016 one, and that's a bag of shite.
Yeah.
But interestingly, I feel like this one might also be a bag of shit.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be terrible. Because I think it's that producer's thing, like I say, of going like, what's big at the moment? Stranger Things. People like Stranger Things. Right, do Ghostbusters, but make it Stranger Things now. And that's, you can see them doing it, Have
you seen the awful video that they obviously did to try and encourage people to see Ghostbusters Afterlife?
No.
Where they got Ivan Reitman and Bill Murray to watch that awful scene with the mini marshmallow men.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Have you seen Bill Murray's reaction to it? I'll show you it after this.
Yeah.
It's the fakest thing. They were like, pretend like this is the funniest thing you've ever seen. And Bill Murray really pretends like it's the funniest thing he's ever seen. It's the fakest, because the scene's not that funny. It's not funny enough for the amount of laughing he's fake doing.
I mean, also, controversial one. I don't think Bill Murray's a very good actor. I think Bill Murray just does what Bill Murray does. He's very good at being Bill Murray. Yeah, exactly.
That's why he's very good at ad-libbing. He's just himself. I genuinely believe, in the nicest way possible, Ghostbusters was lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
You had, like, the best of SNL.
Yeah.
The best of SNL. I know you're not a big fan of Ghostbusters.
Going back to it, I was surprised how little I enjoyed it again. But
I still enjoy it, but I do genuinely believe it was lightning in a bottle, and you're not going to get a cast like that again. And also, again, you told the story.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate this new movie for at least being, we're going to go somewhere else. It's not in New York. It's rural America, and fair enough.
The trouble with all of these Ghostbusters sequels, like the 2 tried to address it but didn't do it very well, and then this one seems to be trying to do it now. Where the female one is sort of standalone, I think.
It is standalone.
Yeah.
Well, they invent their own kit. And stuff, so
so we assume different universe. But the trouble that you have is that at the end of Ghostbusters, like, ghosts run amok all over New York City, and there's an apocalyptic event. So then you have to, like, you cannot now do a film 20 years later or 30 years later going, oh, what if there were ghosts? We all know there were ghosts. They were fucking everywhere for a couple of days in the 80s. You know?
This is the weird thing with Star Wars as well, where it's like a decade goes by and everyone's like, Jedi? Oh no, that's not real. It's like, hang on a minute. Like in 100 years ago, there were like a million of them.
There's a great gag in the Family Guy Star Wars where he says, oh, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I wonder if he means old Obi-Wan Kenobi who lives. Because he never calls himself Ben at all at any point.
Never has.
He's been in hiding badly for
really badly now, because apparently they're going to make a series where he goes and fights Darth Vader or something again in the middle of it. Like, just stop.
If there's a message that we have for, again, it's that sort of baby boomer culture thing, isn't it? Like, the baby boom generation were in charge of culture for so long, they're still milking it. Just let it all die. Let's have some new thing. Can we have new ideas from other people, please? Like, can we have something that George Lucas didn't write? Or can we not have more Ghostbusters? Or can we have just other stuff?
Do you know, it's weird, isn't it? When you were a kid...
Yeah.
Or when we were growing up. Did you ever have a moment? Because I honestly never had a moment in my childhood as a lover of Star Wars, the original trilogy. I loved it.
Yeah.
As a lover of that trilogy, I don't ever remember thinking I need more.
No.
I was happy with what I had. I had books and spin-offs and all that stuff in novels. I never thought, I need a new
That's
new
a really
movie.
good point, actually. I'd never thought about that, but you are right, because you just think, well, I know that story. I know that it ends when, like, Darth Vader sees the light and throws the Emperor down the thing, and then we're done. That was the end of the story. Yeah, it starts with, like, on Tatooine, and it ends there, and there's all that stuff happens in the middle, which was cool, and then we're done.
Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah. I'm like, Predator. I'm like, great. Predator's great. Done.
Yeah, Predator is one of my go-to examples because there is no better version of Predator than Predator, right? Like,
again, it's a story you can only tell once.
Exactly.
Like Jaws with the shark.
You were saying,
You've done the shark movie now.
We can't do any more shark films. We did the best one. It's over. Yeah.
And Predator is that. Like, what else can you do with Predator, really? Put him in different time periods. That's about it.
Yeah, but again, like, if it's like a space creature that like hunts humans for sport, well, what's the most extreme thing he could be hunting? Arnold Schwarzenegger and a team of commandos.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're done. There's
Danny Glover, clearly.
Yeah, Danny Glover, who was already too old for this shit. Like, it doesn't work because you're going down. You're going back down the scale. Like, it came in at 11. We're done. You can't turn it any further up. And I'm
assuming the Predator in Predator 2 must have just been a bit shit.
It was like a remedial essay that you had to do for homework, right? You had to go and get an old cop, and then maybe we'll let you hunt the commandos. Yeah,
it's I don't know, but this has been fun. Are you still writing your blog, the Haines Report?
I'm doing a thing on Substack, the Haines Report, which you can sign up to. It's free. You just get my stuff emailed to you rather than me having to tell people, hey, go and look at this. It just turns up. If you want to read it, go crazy. If not, you've still got it. You know?
Yeah. And the Arts Hole with you and B is it's as and when, I guess, is it? Or is it going to be
We've got a huge stack of stuff because we started doing it about a year ago and then we sort of dithered as to whether to put it out or not. So we've got a year's worth of material to work through. You said that like our Halloween episode was recorded last October.
I think I started listening to it and I think it was the Halloween one you said was last October.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we're doing a Halloween season. We want to try and touch, if we can, on it being Black History Month as well.
Yeah.
So we might do an episode on that. And then we've got a load of other stuff that's not Halloween related. We've got like Tango and Cash. We've got we've got Burlesque with Cher and Christina Aguilera, and Crossroads with Britney Spears. So it's not all my choices, just keep it even.
I'm assuming Tango and Cash was B's choice.
yeah. That's how we ended up watching Every Which Way But Loose. She was like, "Is Tango and Cash the one with the monkey? Because Tango's orange."
And you were like, "No, it's not. But we need to watch that movie too."
Yeah. So we've got a lot of stuff to get through, and I've been saying because like people.
I see her logic there.
That's
solid logic.
Yeah, right.
Tango, orange. Yeah, okay.
You can't follow her thinking on it. But I've been saying to people, because some people have been sending me messages saying, "Oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" We are taking suggestions. We like getting information, getting feedback from people. But if we don't do it yet, it's because I've got another 20 things in the pipeline.
I will say that we get requests on the Movies Made Us Do It, and it's like. I absolutely will.
Yeah.
But our existing list is like cavernous.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, we've got so many.
Yeah, it's like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. You're just like, yours is at the back on the left. I'll get to it
or the opening of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Fuck you.
Oh, this has been fun, my friend.
This is good.
So it's the Arts Hole on Podbean?
Yeah, Podbean. It's also searchable on Spotify and Apple and Stitcher and wherever pods are cast. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Are you on YouTube as well, or not?
No, not yet. No, we're not doing that one yet. I even, as a reference, we did Jennifer's Body the other day, and somebody talked about...
Do you know, I've never watched that movie.
Interesting and flawed. It's sort of our sweet spot for what we try to do with the podcast.
Sure.
It's not bad, but it needs some work on it.
Right. Okay.
But somebody mentioned in that it was 2009 that movie came out, and somebody mentioned MySpace, and I said MySpace crops up in the first Iron Man as well, which is 2008, and I started trying to work out.
Don't post this on your MySpace.
Well, yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I was trying to work out what the last unironic reference to MySpace was in film, because like 2008 it was already dying. 2009 Jennifer's Body, it's got to be on the verge, But as a fun Easter egg for that, I also made us a MySpace page. So if you're on MySpace, and you're not, the Arts Hole is on there.
I assume I still might be on MySpace. I have no idea.
They did a purge. They deleted all our old accounts. You got to start a new one. I know.
I'll go find it on archive.org for
nice.
the
the Wayback Machine. Yeah.
But yeah, this has been great. So catch Luke and B on their podcast, and also the Haines Report, which you can subscribe to. I didn't even know that. I'm going to subscribe to it, because then you don't have to tell me.
Thank you very much.
Every now and again you email them to me, or I find them on Facebook. So but thank you for listening, everybody. Next time I believe I will be talking to Terry Cooper, director, writer, and apparently he's got a new film that he's currently getting ready to start filming, so that'll be fun. But thanks for listening to this rambling first episode of The Excurse.